Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. I had a little difficulty getting the Zoom link because it was on my phone and I didn't want to connect from my phone. Okay, so thank you, Karen and Gina and everyone from Novib. Thank you for having me this evening. I am so happy to be here with you all. My name is Adebola Adefioye. I think I feel like a lot of people, if not everyone, knows me on the call. So thank you for joining tonight. I will be sharing knowledge from the work that I do at the Afro Women and Youth Foundation and the work that I've been doing for over 20 years, starting from Nigeria and now in Canada, and also some work that I've done with some other organizations in Canada with a focus on a federal funded project. Okay, so we'll just get started and I will share my screen. So lead with purpose, managing teams and resources. So this is the topic that I've been asked to speak on tonight, and I will be trying my best. I welcome you all to engage and feel free to raise your hand. I'm not able to see everyone because I'm sharing my screen, but I think we have a small number of people on the call, so feel free to unmute and speak. Or Karen, if you find that anyone is maybe leaving something in the chat, please feel free to stop me, and then I'll be more than happy to have them share their thoughts, insights, and all that. Okay, so we'll just get started. I think, Karen, you've done that already, so I don't have to repeat that. So what we're going to be looking at today, we're going to be looking at purpose-driven leadership, effective strategies to manage teams, harnessing resources and management, conflict resolution and team resilience, and then strategic project and program management, and also managing resources effectively. I'm going to be sharing the story of how we have continued to manage resources at the Afro Women and Youth Foundation from the time we didn't have any funding. So when we got the first $3,000 in Toronto, and now that we have we're a team of three, about four right now. So and also some strategies from a federal government funded project that I worked on for about 3 years with the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare. And also some practical tools for evaluation that people could adapt. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so as we continue, I'd like to hear from you. So if you can share your name and a fun fact about you, if you feel comfortable, please feel free to unmute, turn on your camera, share your name and a fun fact about you, just so we can kind of get to know one another before we continue. Fun fact, if you feel comfortable.
Hi everyone, my name is Gina, and a fun fact about me is that I like to read. I don't know if that's a fun fact actually, that's kind of weird, but yeah.
Yeah,
And
it
I'm
is.
also a fan of Adebola, so there we go.
Thank you, Gina, for sharing. Any other thoughts?
Oh, my name is
Go
Kahin.
next. Oh, sure.
Okay.
Okay.
My name is Kahin, and I like to read and watch movies.
Oh,
I can go next. My name is Julieta, and a fun fact about me is that I love singing, but I have realized that I can only do that in the shower, probably because my voice is so bad.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't think both is bad. Okay, any other person?
I
My
can
name
go
is
next. Oh, go on.
my name is Francesca Gabriel, and the fun fact about me is I like to try new food.
You like to do what?
I'd like to try new food.
New food. Oh, that's
Yeah,
beautiful. And there's a lot to try in Canada.
yeah,
So keep
yeah,
trying.
yeah. I've gotten some from the Afro Women Center already, so I'll keep trying. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Olubumi. Hi, my name is Olubumi.
Hi.
And
Hi.
a fun fact about me, I like acting, even though I've not done and it's come up many years, but I like.
What did you say you like?
I like acting.
Acting. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Maybe we'll see you on TV soon.
Oh,
Mhm.
Natasha, I thought you wanted to speak.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Natasha. Fun fact about me is I love cooking and I love to eat what I cook.
That's so beautiful. And I've been responding to some of your WhatsApp status to say, I think I need to visit you. So
Yes.
you just confirmed that again. Okay, thanks for sharing. Alero, did you want to say something?
Hello, everybody. I just saw the link and I decided to join and see what's happening.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Alero. Fun fact about me, I want to say is that I like to make people laugh. So,
Oh, that's beautiful.
Wow.
Happy people. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm not seeing everyone, but it looks like we've gotten some good responses, and I think there's something in the chat. I don't want to miss anything. Oh, okay, that's Gina. All right, so and then for me, my name is Adebola Adefioye. I think I shared that at the beginning. Fun fact about me, I love to skip. That's using jump rope with my girls. So I enjoy doing that, and I think it's fun. All right, so we'll just move forward.
Sorry, I just joined.
Oh, no
I think
problem.
I missed.
All right.
Yeah.
Did you want to share your fun fact?
Oh, okay. I'm Awa. I am so impatient that I hate tying my shoelaces.
Oh, that's interesting. So what do you do to them? What do you do with your shoelaces?
So when I buy shoes, it's without laces.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, I just saw one from Agatha. She loves having many children. She loves children.
Really? That is
I
so
get that.
funny.
Wow.
Having many children, I love children. Okay, so maybe we'll bring, or would I invite you to come be a child minder at the Afro Women and Youth Foundation? Okay, thank you all for sharing, and we'll just continue in the session. So, what is purpose-driven leadership? So we know we all know leadership. It means different things to different people. We know that everything rises and falls on leadership. John Maxwell says that leadership is influencing other people, right? It's influence, nothing more, nothing less. That's what it defines leadership as, and I like that. However, today we're looking a little deeper into purpose-driven leadership and also with a focus on the nonprofit sector. So purpose-driven leadership, what I have here says is a leadership approach where the leader is guided by a clear and meaningful mission or purpose that goes beyond profits or personal gain. I decided to highlight the guiding. Okay, I decided to highlight the guided by a clear and meaningful mission or purpose that goes beyond profits or personal gain. This kind of leadership is rooted in values, service, and long-term vision with the aim of creating positive impact for people, communities, and the world. Because we are focusing on the nonprofit sector, it is very, very important that we kind of focus on that line that I highlighted, the space or the section that I highlighted, because, you know, a lot of times people kind of come into nonprofit work for different reasons, so many different reasons. However, it is important that we have it at the back of our minds that the purpose for the work must go beyond profit or personal gain. As a matter of fact, if we're thinking personal gain or profits, then that's already a wrong place to get started. All right, so we move forward, and the key features of purpose-driven leadership. Number one is clarity of purpose. We want to be sure that we understand what we are getting into or what we're starting to do. The ability to lead with a strong desire to serve, articulating the greater mission behind their work or organization. And as I go over each of the slides, I'm going to be sharing my journey in the nonprofit sector and my experience over the past many years. So clarity of purpose is one. So when I started the Afro Men and Youth Foundation, it was in Toronto. It was in a shelter, it was one of those shelters, one of those hotels that they turned to shelter in 2018, 2019. And precisely Radisson was the name of that shelter. So my daughter had experienced racism, and I started speaking to, because I knew some people who were living in that shelter, and I visited, and I was just kind of engaging them to know, okay, how are you guys doing? How are you settling in Canada? Because it's a different thing when you live in the shelter or when, because so their experiences, so their kids get picked up from the shelter to school. So some of them said that they were experiencing racism. The kids were being bullied on the school bus and all that. So I knew at that point that I could do something. Also because my daughter had experienced racism, or she was experiencing racism at that time, and I had stepped in to offer some strategies, and she was already coping and developing confidence. And I saw that those strategies could also work for newcomer families. So I asked a few of them if they'll be interested in doing some programming on weekends, and they were like, "Oh, that sounds cool. Okay." So then I went on to speak to the manager of the shelter, and she was like, "Oh, that would really work for us and align with our goals and plans and everything." And before I knew what was happening, I was giving like a workshop room in the shelter, and that was how we started. So I knew that I wanted to support families to build more confidence, to build advocacy skills. My focus was on self-advocacy, because I wanted the children that, experience racism on the school bus to be able to speak up and say, no, this is not acceptable. I also wanted moms to be able to support their children and also speak up for themselves, because at that time, some of the moms were saying, oh, right now it's just about, getting papers or going for hearing and all of that. There were different levels and different stages, and, combating or resisting racism was not a top priority for them. But I knew that they needed to do that. So I was willing and happy to provide support in that area. And so I wasn't even thinking about funding. I wasn't thinking about how I'm going to get the program running. I just knew that I could show up on weekends and do what I could do with the families. So ability to lead with a strong desire to serve. So a lot of times, I said, leadership could look like something to different people. And in the corporate world, it could look like you leading and always leading. However, in the nonprofit space, it is leading and always being willing and available to serve. So which means even when you have a team of volunteers or people working and the organization is growing, you're still more than happy to step in when you need to do some work, and not now that you're now like bigger and too big to do certain work. So I've been running Afro Men for, this is our 6th year, and sometimes I still get to the office and be the one at the front desk, be the one to kind of quickly get the washroom ready before the program or even after the program or at any time of the day. So also articulating the greater mission behind the work or the organization. So letting the people on the team know the reason why we are in this work. It is very important, because when people don't understand your vision, it's very difficult to travel the journey with you. So when we hire anybody, or when we, have volunteers, recently we did an onboarding session for some advisory board members. We also had volunteers who kind of support the work that we're doing. Every time we're always making sure that we share the vision of this work with them, so they can know what we're doing and why we're doing what we're doing, because that can actually get them to be encouraged or have passion or be more interested in the work. Also, value-based decision making in alignment with core values like integrity, equity, compassion, and justice. Inspiring and empowering others is another one. So this work, as much as it's about social impact and community building and development and all of that, it's also very important that the people on the team get inspired and get empowered. And so an example I will use that we're not a big organization. We don't have the 1,500,000 budgets and all of that. But the little that we have, we make sure that we're supporting people, we're encouraging them, we're inspiring them. And that can look like, maybe I'm sure that's a mistake. Okay, so yeah, and then purpose. So I was talking about inspiring and empowering others. So we don't have all the big budgets. However, the little that we have, we kind of support the team members with things like, okay, they want to do a training and we can afford to pay for the training. We make sure that we cover it, and that way they know that they're being supported and they're being encouraged and empowered to continue in their role or the work that they're doing. Also igniting passion in others by connecting daily tasks to a larger or shared goal. So they show up every day on different for the work that they have to do for the day. However, the work is connected to the overall goal of the organization, right? It's empowerment, it's leadership building, and everything that we do on a daily basis connects to the broad goal of the organization. That is very, very important. And the people working needs to be able to see that. They need to be able to make that connection. Okay, I show up on a daily basis. I'm helping with wellness programs. I'm helping maybe with grant writing. I'm checking things and, drawing program planning and surveys and all of that. But again, at the end of the day, we all want to be sure that we are empowering people, we're developing leadership skills, and the members are also developing advocacy skills. So very, very important. So prioritizing sustainable and meaningful change. So what are the things that we can do or we're doing right now that will be sustainable? So there's some efforts that we know that we don't have to put in energy into because maybe they're not sustainable, maybe they're only for a short period of time. But are there things that we can do and continue to do and that we know that, okay, this will continue to happen or this will continue to grow? So we want to focus energy in those areas because that gives a long-term impact and it also helps to create meaningful change. So commitment to social good, that's the work that we're doing. I believe that's the work that every social impact organization, nonprofit organization, social enterprise should be doing. Again, it's not enough to say you're committed to it. It has to show in the way that the organization projects themselves. It has to show in the daily, in their daily work that they do in the organization. And focusing and passion is on improving systems and empowering I'm gonna move this, and empowering marginalized communities. So improving systems and empowering marginalized communities. What can that look like? So the work that we're doing at Afro Women and Youth Foundation it started in the shelter. However, it has grown beyond the work, the few people that we were having in the shelter. So at that time, it was about in the morning, we'll do workshop for youth and we'll have about 20 people. And then in the afternoon, we'll have about maybe 25 women or moms at the shelter. But over time, it started growing. And because the needs of the people, we're identifying more needs. And we're also doing or adding to the programming. And the work, I would say, is helping to improve systems and empowering marginalized communities because we have taken it, we're growing it from that very small scale work to now connecting or collaborating with bigger organizations who are doing some policy work, who are helping us to get in front of politicians to make some recommendations. We're doing media release and press release and focusing on how change can happen. Partnering with schools is another way that we're kind of working towards improving systems because when you partner with schools, you can also influence or impact change in that area. Improving systems can look like, very little and insignificant at the beginning, but as you continue to do the work and staying committed to it, gradually things will begin to take shape. And improving systems could be something that you're not able to say, oh, we have improved system, right? You may not be able to fully clearly track how much impact you're making or how much of improvement you're doing. However, if you stay committed to the work that you're doing on a daily basis, it continues to add up and it continues to create change. And I think the very easy way that I kind of look at systems change is how we're impacting people individually. So when I started nonprofit work in Nigeria, I was in my early 20s. And I saw how community programming was impacting lives. I worked with young girls in Ibadan and it was just, I was just doing bidding activities with them. And before I knew it, they were sharing their stories and telling me about their challenges. And I was like, oh, really? So from craft and all that, we can actually get to learn about people's lives and support them and all that. So that made me know that, okay, I wanted to do this long term and I continue to do it. So the work that I started then has changed me over the years. And now I'm also helping other people. So that's how we continue to transform societies. So I believe that I've been able to get my life transformed or changed because of the experience I've had in this work over the years. And that is also helping me to be able to build this organization, Afro Women and Youth Foundation. And this work has also impacted many other people. There's a big nonprofit organization in Toronto. I spoke with a woman about 2 years ago, and she was like, oh, I was the one who spoke to you at Radisson in 2019, and this was what you did on that day. And I remember somebody came to me and said, how can I do this work? I'm like, oh, really? You want to do it? Oh, you can do it. Just be in touch and, send me an email and all that. And I don't think she sent that email. She said she got support and kind of just figured things out and kind of continued with the women in the shelter. So as they were moving out of the shelter and they moved to I think it was Kitchener, one of those cities, they just started the program in there. And that was the story she shared. So again, there's so many other work that people have started because they've seen someone doing this work and they also want to do it. Okay, so again, and that's how we improve systems and empower marginalized communities. All right, so I said, number 10, I said add yours because I don't want to be the only one speaking. So whatever you think we can add to this list, please feel free to unmute or share in the chat. I would like to hear from you. We have 21 people on the call right now, so hopefully we have more engagement. Or if you have any questions about any of the listed things on the screen, feel free to also ask your questions.
Does it say advertisement on the list? Hi, Adebola.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. You?
Not too bad. I did not introduce myself because it looks like you guys are gender biased. I'm the only man in your forum today, but that's all right. I am Emmanuel, and my fun fact is that I like cycling. And to add to your key features here, I would say I didn't hear one aspect of the engagement that you take with the approach to address the racism that most of the children have probably encountered.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. It was good to have your contribution. Okay, so any other thoughts about adding to the list before we move to the next slide?
Well, nothing much to add. I wanted to say that I'm also a man on this call, so to Mr. Emmanuel's point. And then point one really stood out for me, clarity of purpose. I think that's really big. Just echoing that as an old saying goes, when the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. So I think leadership requires purpose, and it has to be clear. So just restating that, no other thing to add. Thank you.
Thank you for focusing on that again and reminding us that that's the most important thing, because there's a lot of misconceptions about nonprofit work. Some people say, oh, there's money in it, I want to go get the funding too. That's okay. However, it's very important that we understand the purpose, and then the purpose continues to drive and shape the work that we're doing in recruiting and getting board members and working with them and all of that. Clarity of purpose is very, very important. It continues to guide everything that we're doing in the work. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's good to know that we don't just have one meal on the call. Thank you. All right, so this is just a description, kind of summary of what I have on the previous slide. A leader of an organization fighting youth homelessness isn't just managing projects and staff. They're working towards a vision where all youth in a geographical location, maybe Sudbury, have safety, dignity, and opportunities to thrive. So every strategy that they work on or whatever programming they do is anchored in this deeper purpose. They want to be sure that anyone who is homeless, a youth who is homeless, their lives get better. And what does that look like? So when they're planning or designing their program, they're putting that into consideration. So I just wanted to give a good example. Oops, how did I move here? Okay, so yes. Okay, so yeah, I'm sharing this slide. So this is my mentor I worked with. Why am I not able to move this? Okay, so this is Pastor Nikki Adeyemi, or Coach Nikki Adeyemi. I worked with her for 4 years in Lagos at the Real Woman Foundation. And I think she's a good example of purpose-driven leadership, because when I got into the organization, initially I didn't know that I was going to work there. I was just with my pastor on a Sunday morning in church. It was after service, and he was saying, so I was supposed to go to Ibadan for a training. And then my pastor said, oh, Adebola, you're always talking about this HIV training and, going for a conference and all that. I think you should meet my pastor, because at that time, he just started his own church. It was in Daystar Christian Center, which is a church in Lagos. And then he just started his own church. So I was in his new church. And then he said, I think you need to meet my pastor. I'm like, okay, I know the Adeyemis. And then he just did a call, and that was how I went to meet Pastor Nikki. And I kind of just shared my passion, the work that I'd done in Ibadan, the work that I already started in Lagos with another nonprofit doing vocational training for women and people with disability and all that. And then she was like, oh, that's amazing. Okay, we have this program for girls. It's called For Girls Only, and they do it across the schools in Lagos State. So she was like, okay, maybe you can do this and all of that. And I was like, okay, fine. Then I met the manager also, who kind of gave a lot of other information about what they do and all that. And that was how I got the work. I got the job, and I was there for 4 years. So Pastor Nike she doesn't come like every day to work, but we usually have meetings on Mondays. And when she comes on Mondays, we stay in the staff room, and she shares the journey, shares the passion behind the work that she's doing. How, as an undergraduate student, she would go and look to do outreach for women on the streets in Lagos and help them and support them. So she was always communicating that vision. And I was like, okay, so if somebody is helping people, trying to get them away from the streets and, helping children, there was also Love Home Orphanage, and there was a shelter, Peace Villa shelter. So she comes every Monday, and she just shares this inspiring stories about how she started the work. And that was helpful for me, and I believe for other people, because it helped us to see that this work is very, very important. This work is transformative. This work is not about, getting the money and of course you get money because you get paid for the work you're doing, but it was more than that. It was a work, for change. So every Monday when she comes and shares that, she would always share the passion and the journey and how this work started before the manager takes over, about, giving reports about operations and what we're doing and what's happening in all the departments, and the leaders will share their thoughts. So that presence of the leader, of the owner of the vision every Monday was very, very important. At least for me. I don't know about other people, but for me, it was really, really important. It helped me to connect with her. And some days she would even take us, we'll go for lunch, and then she'll just share and ask us questions, how we're doing. I wasn't married then, but when I got married, she'll ask about vacation, how are you doing, family first and all that, So it was, all of that was like, oh, really? So it made me know that, leadership is very, very important, and connecting and empowering the people that you're leading is also very, very important. The way she communicates the vision to us, I know the social worker that was there shortly after I joined is still there till today. Like, she still works there till today. So, and I left because I had my first child when I was there. My first child is now 17. So the social worker joined maybe like 18 or 19 years ago, and she's still there. So, and I believe it's the seed, the connection, the empowerment that makes people stay and, continue to do the work that they're doing. So I wanted to share the story because, again, it helps us to know, because it's easy to say, oh, leadership is 1, 2, 3, 4. But again, when we have real stories, it helps us to understand things better. Okay, so that's the case study that I have. I don't know, any questions about this? I think there's something in the chat. I don't want to miss that. Okay, consistency, absolutely. Thanks for sharing, Kathy. Okay, so I'm gonna move forward. All right, so looking at managing teams, of course, leading with purpose and vision. I already shared how my employer at that time, which was Pastor Nike, would, support us and ask how we're doing in our different lives and what was happening and how she could support. I remember when I had my daughter, when I had Joanna in the hospital, I got a call. So I called the office to say, okay, now the baby is here because I was already heavy and they were saying, when is this baby coming? And the next thing, somebody just asked what was the room number and all of that. And I just I sent it to them. And the next thing, I just saw my boss entered the room. Like really, I was really surprised, but it was really a joyful moment for me. She carried the baby, gave a name to the baby and all that. And I left the office, I left the hospital thinking, oh, how many employers or bosses would actually show up like without notice when their staff puts a bed in the hospital? That was really very important for me, especially for the kind of work that we're doing. You know, it's really a good way to connect and to be inspired and empowered to do the work better. Of course, there were other gifts that came with that visit. Okay, so practicing inclusive and trauma-informed leadership. This one is very important. We want to be sure that we're meeting people where they're at. We want to understand, you know, their struggle, their challenges. We're not poke-nosing to be asking, what's the trauma in your life, you know, and how can I help you deal with it? But we're just listening to what people are saying, listening to what they're not saying, because a lot of times people don't usually just start sharing their lives with people, but just observing and listening and providing support. And when people know that you can listen very well, active listening, not in a rush to say whatever it is that you want to say or that you know, but just caring for people and supporting people. That's a way that we can, you know, foster inclusive spaces and manage teams. Also fostering open and transparent communication. What does that look like? So if there's issues at your place of work or in your office, is there a way, how can people know that, okay, this is the person I can speak to, this is the person I can, you know, chat with, I can confide in this person, it will be confidential, like really confidential. That open policy is very, very open and transparent communication is very, very important. Investing in professional development. Again, when you're starting a new organization or a young organization, you don't have all the money. Like I said at the beginning, we don't have a big budget. However, things like the staff want to do police check, CPR, you know, we pay for things like that. You don't have to have big budgets before you take care of those little things, right? So, and then when the budget begins to grow, maybe you can send them on training to just kind of support and empower them. I don't bother about who is leaving or who is staying, because that's another reason that some people think, okay, if I send them, or if people are sent to do training and it's expensive and all that, maybe they'll get all the knowledge and run away. It's just people development, and it's okay. It's okay for people to have other opportunities and feel like, oh, they need to move forward, right? I think it was 2 years ago, we had a very amazing staff, very, very good person. And then it was always ready and willing to go extra mile. And then I was in Toronto on a Wednesday. I was teaching in a college, and I just got a call, and the person said, oh, I need to talk to you. This is very urgent. I'm like, really? Is everything okay? And she said, she got a job. She needs to go for training. And I'm like, really? The policy says 2 weeks notice. And this is just like 1 day notice. I said, when are you leaving? And she said, it has to be by Friday because the training starts on Friday. I felt really bad. However, I know that people are always looking for good and, you know, better opportunities and all that. But I made sure to let her know that 2 weeks was what you signed for. And it would be nice if you keep it official and tell the new employer that you needed 2 weeks before you leave this organization. And that was, but again, was still good. If I see her today, we're still good friends and all that. So that happened. So that shouldn't stop us from investing in professional development, again, according to your budget. Setting clear roles, goals, and accountability, very, very important. If people are not clear about the roles, what they're supposed to be doing, and also having those reminders. So we do weekly meetings, and then what will your meetings look like, or what can your meetings look like, right? We have so many different documents that we use in communicating. So even when we're not in the same space, we can definitely continue conversations and meetings and all that. Also promoting collaboration over competition. Again, sometimes within the teams, there could be competition. Maybe this team is really delivering well, or you like how they're doing their work. You can actually have them collaborate. If this team, you think they have strength for this work, or they understand things better, or they have more knowledge, when people have maybe expertise in an area and there's other teams that probably do not have that expertise. And if you're talking about two people, maybe this one person has gotten a lot of knowledge in this area and this person does not. How can you help them to collaborate? So we are not having this competitive spirit in the workplace. So they can collaborate. This person who does not know a lot of what person knows will surely have something too that they're good at. So that way they can work together and support one another and not have that competition spirit because that, again, will destroy a lot of things. Prioritizing well-being and burnout prevention. So recently, we were having women's program, and our women's program can be really busy. We cap the group to 20, but sometimes it gets really looks like a fast-paced environment because of the things that we do and all that. And one of my staff came one day looking tired. So her husband was out of town. And then, so she came looking really, really tired. And I was like, is everything okay? And before she could say anything, I saw that tears were coming down. And I'm like, okay, how are the kids? They're at home. Who is with them? She mentioned the person's name. I said, you know what? We'll be fine. We're only three, myself and this person, and then we have some volunteers that we can, ask them to support. We will be fine. You need to go back home now. Go stay with your kids and be fine. It doesn't look like you're really here and present. And I understand the struggle because, of course, she doesn't have a lot of support for the kids at that time. And then she kind of took a few minutes, went to the washroom, I think probably kind of to, breathe and feel better. And she came back to say, I don't want to go. I already made some calls. Everything is okay. I'm fine. We should be good. And I kept checking in during the program to know how she's doing, how the kids are doing, and how everything is going well, and everything seems good, right? So again, prioritizing well-being. The work needs to continue. We know there's funding, there's budgeting, there's reporting. However, if a staff is going to feel exhausted and not able to function, it's better that they take that day off, right? So maybe we can have other people step in to help out or in a way just manage the situation for that day. But we don't want to have people who are not feeling good and doing or having to do the work. All right, using participatory decision-making, so ensuring that we're engaging teams in decision-making processes. It depends on the kind of decisions we're talking about, though. If it's managerial or governance, of course, we're speaking with board of directors, advisory committee, and all of that. But if it's about the project or the programs, and you want to have the programs teams and the admin teams and all of them together, we want to be sure that we're hearing from them. So we're making that decision together collaboratively. So everybody takes responsibility and be accountable for what we have decided that we're going to do. That is very, very important. Who are the volunteers that we're recruiting? Who can be the volunteer lead? Who is going to help us with child minding? Who does it well, or who's got experience with children? Who is able to do it, or who's got maybe child minding certificates, or who runs a childcare, or maybe someone who's got a CPR right certificate. So again, we're checking to know what decisions that we're making and making sure that we're not just making decisions, but good decisions. All right, I wanted you to add yours, but I think I'll move forward. I think our time is going by really fast. Okay, so in terms of resources, before we talk about our resources, we of course, we want to look at, what are the needs, right? Resources can be broad and big. What are the needs? So I have listed our 4 key resources and human resources, the staff members, consultants, volunteers. When you're starting, if you're new or you're kind of considering this work, you will probably be maybe the main or the only staff at the beginning. But as the work continues to grow and as you continue to maybe get funding, you can have a budget for the work that you're doing as the lead person. So, however, it can be very, very unstable. So today you have some funding and then you run programming, you get paid for the work that you do on that programming. However, when there's no funding, then you're not getting paid. Again, if there are other people on the team and they have to maybe do more tasks and do more work, that can look like you continuing to pay other people and not and not be able to get paid for the work that you do. So that's why sometimes it's better as leaders, especially when the organization is new. If you have a job, still keep your job so you don't run out of finances. And that's what I said at the beginning, clarity of purpose. It's a misconception to say that I want to do nonprofit to be able to, because I want to make money or I want to, get money for myself. As a matter of fact, the board of directors need to decide about this money and payment and all of that. And, sometimes it doesn't, it's not, you don't have a say. You can make recommendations and suggestions. However, the key decisions lies with the board of directors, which is the governing body of the organization. All right, so again, human resources, where can you find them? Who can you recruit? So sometimes we had a very negative experience with a volunteer some time ago. It was when we started the work in Sudbury. We had met this amazing volunteer who really supported our work in downtown. And we were like, oh, this is really good. And then we got some funding. And it was supposed to be for, I think, a few months. And I knew that we needed to have somebody who could really be on ground to do the work. So I wasn't even interested in, stepping into that role. What I was doing, which was looking for the money, was enough work for me. So we kind of had this person, employed this person. We kind of put it out on social media, and this person applied. And because they've been volunteering before, the board of directors and myself, everybody thought, okay, this is a good candidate. And then we employed this person. However, in about 3 weeks into the role, we started having difficulties. This person wasn't communicating well, was not kind of respectful enough, and kind of things weren't going smoothly. And then we got an email one day to say, I'm no longer interested. We couldn't figure out what was happening. We decided to set up a meeting. We had, people reached out and all that. They still said, well, it's just not kind of a right fit. And we kind of, let it kind of go like that. However, after a few years, we got another email to say, I'm looking for a job. Can I get a job? And we're like, we're not hiring at this time. And even if you're hiring, I don't think that would consider that person. So again, the fact that people have been around volunteering does not make them a good candidate for the work that you're doing. So it's good to always check in and do, the interviews and kind of check the alignment and see the experience, passion, so many things to check. And sometimes you could even check everything and still not find the right candidate. However, you would have to decide who you're moving forward with in terms of staff, volunteers, consultants, and all of that. Financial resources is a big one, because to get the work going, there's need to look for money. I have been looking for money since forever. So in Toronto, we got this, I think it was $1,500 at some point, and then we got a $3,000 grant. And after that, we've gotten so many other grants. I write all the grant applications. Some people use grant writers, which is totally fine. However, when you're still a small organization, you want to be sure that you're not paying people for what you can do, maybe what you can learn by yourself, because sometimes some of the skills just require you to continue to do it. When you do it over and over again, you may not necessarily become an expert, but you just learn how to do it better per time, right? So again, so as we were getting the money, we were kind of always planning. So we had programs, and we would just look for money to be able to implement those programs. And then when there's no money, we try to see what we can do. So there was a time we kind of totally run out of funding, and all we could do was to do virtual sessions. During the COVID time, we were doing virtual sessions. We had people, I was in Newmarket and moved to Sudbury. However, we had people who were still joining us virtually from Toronto, from Newmarket, and just a few people from Sudbury. So again, what can that look like? When there's no funding, what can you do, right? So other ways that you could also, other resources that would also be needed could be grants, could be donations, and that's like people maybe giving monthly donations, weekly donations, depending on how you're reaching out to get that. Then you could also get in-kind contributions. So in 2021, I believe, when I just moved to Sudbury, an organization did a fundraiser, and they gave us office equipment. So we got laptops, we got printer, we got scanner, we got so many laptops, yeah, and desktop and printer. And there was no office space. However, that was really, really kind of them to be able to do that for us. And when we got office space at somewhere, one of the universities inside Laurentian University, we moved those items to the space. And we were there for a couple of months before we eventually got a rented space. So material resources is another one. So equipment, office space, supplies. Knowledge resources, very, very important. Training, research, mentorship. What does that look like? So for the leaders, for the board of directors, for the volunteers, for the staff, there has to be ongoing training. Again, maybe there's no budget for, to say, okay, go for this training and do that training, but there's a lot of free resources online that people can use to develop their skills. Research is another one. So as somebody who's in academia, I do research myself. I write a lot of paper. I have done MRP for my master's, for my mental health intervention program. I did research. So all of those knowledge, we kind of learn from them and review them and see how we can adapt the findings or let the findings guide the work that we're doing at Afro Women and Youth Foundation. That is also very, very important. And mentorship. Are you available to mentor the people on the team, the people that you're serving? Sometimes mentorship does not have to be structured, but you're making sure that you're supporting people, checking in with them, empowering them. And when you have a programming that is a structured mentorship program, that's also amazing. That way you can continue to have that ongoing support for the people in the program. All right, I feel like I'm speaking too much, but again, the time is so limited. But I want to hear from you. What strategies can we use in each of the listed areas? Any thoughts? Feel free to unmute and share. Okay, I think I need to move forward. Oh, time is almost done. Okay, so to harness resources, we need to build strong partnerships. So I talk about how we started from a shelter in Toronto, and we got a workshop room in the shelter to use, and we were using that, on weekends, right? And what we were doing, which was workshops for youth and women, later it turned to clothing bank. And then we were taking food to the shelter. And I was a student at Seneca College in Toronto, and on campus, I was doing clothing drive. And my professors would get things for me in their offices. And then one day, one of my professors said, Adebola, I think I can offer free yoga to the families that you help in the shelter. So now on weekends, we had the clothing items that we were moving to the shelter. We had Professor Terry, who was going to go with me to the shelter to do yoga for youth in the morning and then for women in the afternoon. And then I had Josephine, who was going to facilitate the mental health and wellness sessions for the women. So again, what resources can you leverage, as a community leader or as a nonprofit founder that can help you, even when you don't have the funding? So using strategic funding approaches, grants, events, social enterprise, and all that. In-kind support. I talk about how somebody gave us all the office equipment when we didn't have a space. Use testimonials. Who are the people that you're serving, and how is this work impacting them, right? So these days you see a lot of stories like people can start work today, and then there's a lot of big stories out there the next day. Sometimes it's feedback and that people are counting as big stories. However, stories are stories. However you choose to tell them or use them, is your choice, right? So, but those stories needs to be told. People need to hear how the work is impacting or being impactful to people. But it's good when it's like over a period of time and people can actually track the journey and track the impact. However, those little testimonials of, okay, feedback, I came today, this was what I enjoyed during the session. Those are also great ways to kind of continue to build the work. So building capacity of team members, I think I've talked a lot about that. Staying transparent and accountable. This one is very important. Like I said, sometimes some people come to this work because, there's people getting funding and funding is available. I'll look for funding to do the work. Very important. However, it is very important to stay transparent and accountable. The governing body is very, very important. Who are the people on the team? How are they supporting? How are they helping? What knowledge do they bring to the work that is being done? And when it's a new organization, sometimes it's even challenging to get a very strong board to help the work that you're doing. However, as the leader, you want to be sure that you are on top of things. You have all the records, you have all the finances, your reporting is accurate, you're reporting to the funders and everything is intact. Because, so for example, We started in 2019 in Toronto, but since 2019, we've had a bookkeeper every year who looked at our books. So the first bookkeeper we had would only work like a few hours at the end of the year, just to kind of look at, you had 3,000. Where did it come from? Who gave you and how it was spent? That's it. So maybe 5 hours in a year is what they did. And then when we got the first big funding, we were just like, okay, so how do we move forward? I remember reaching out to Gina to say, oh, do you have somebody who knows how to do bookkeeping and all that? And she was like, oh, yes. And we got a contact. And that person has been with us now for over 2 years. And we continue to keep accounting records like that. And we do our AGM, and we do, financial reporting, and the board gets report of, finances and all that. But right now, so we're not required, because our budget is not like so big out there. So we're not even required for audited statement right now, but we just completed auditing. So that's also another thing. So once you have from the beginning, once you have a good accounting record and transparency, it's easier as the work continues. So if somebody asks you, oh, what was the money you got in, 5 years ago, or the money you got last year, or it's time for audit, you can bring out all your documents. You say, this was what we got, this was how we spent it. And that way, then there are no issues. You have records of all the programming, the reports, the expenses. Very, very important. Be transparent and adaptive. Also, be flexible. I don't know, I think I like the word transparent. Be flexible and adaptive, very important. Flexibility is also very important. So for example, you have a program and you thought it was going to work and it's no longer working. It's okay to change programming. It's okay to kind of adapt it and see how you could do it better. Is somebody doing the work that you're doing or something similar to the work that you're doing? Do you trust them enough to collaborate with them? Fine. If you don't, that's also totally okay. Collaboration comes with a lot of, trust. And if you feel like you don't trust the person or you don't trust the organization, there's no point pushing it because you're going to get in trouble. So again, being flexible to know when to kind of maybe expand, or kind of knowing when to maybe reduce depending on budget, or to align or to adapt. So when we started in Sudbury, we were sharing space in downtown. We shared space at the public library, and we're always kind of open to collaboration and support. But again, we kind of look and check things very well, right? Very important. Okay, so building strong, this is the same one. Okay. So in terms of audits, you want to identify resources available. I think we talked about that. Categorize them, what's available, what's needed, what's not needed. Develop a detailed plan and leverage partnerships and networks. Very, very important. So I teach at the college. I've been a student in Canada for about 9 years. So I have a strong connection at the college, at the university, and also I'm also growing partnerships in Sudbury. So all of those connections are very, very important, and they can be very, very supportive, right? Very, very supportive. So again, as you continue to show up in your places of work and community and wherever you find yourself, make sure that you're making, good connections with people, because you don't know when you're going to need some support. Again, you don't want to build partnership and connections because you need something from them. You want to just build it and just be a good person to people, so that when they also need you, you're available for them. So partnerships and networking, very, very important. However, some people don't want to, collaborate or partner for whatever reason. Sometimes this work is really complicated and a little difficult, because sometimes people are kind of having a wrong perception of you, and that's okay. You cannot change everybody's mind, but you just kind of focus on the work that you're doing, be diligent with the work that you're doing, show up every day for the vision that you believe in. And before you know it, doors will continue to open, and you'll be able to thrive in the work that you're passionate about. Developing realistic budgets. So right now, I said we're a team of 3. We're getting like 2 new people soon. But again, we don't want to run a budget of $1 million, or run a budget of, one unrealistic budgets. We run our budget based on, this is our plan for the year. This is our strategic plan. This is our 3-year strat plan. And this is what we're going to be focusing on this year, So we do our budgeting based on that. We want to be realistic and be able to look for the resources, and also use software tools. So we use some accounting software, which helps the work that we're doing. QuickBooks is very good. It's simple. However, it's not enough to just have those softwares. It is also important to have like a bookkeeper or an accountant who can help, especially when the person using the QuickBooks is not a bookkeeper or an accounting person. You don't want to get in trouble. Optimize human resources. So that could also mean using some software, depending on what is available. Again, there may not be budget for HR person, but what could you use to simplify the process for you? Conflict resolution, I think we talked a little about this. I'm going to skip this. Strategic projects. Strategic projects and program management. So we talked about clarity of goals at the beginning and vision and all of that. It's important to align projects with mission and vision of the organization. So I talked about how we started and we just wanted people to be able to self-advocate. Advocacy is one key thing for us at Afro Women and Youth Foundation, not only for the youth, but also for the women. Very important. And we design our programs based on that. So set SMART goals. We know what SMART means. Stakeholder engagement. How are you engaging community leaders? Who are the funders? We want to look at the funders. Where are they? And how are you connecting with them? Sending them emails and connecting with them to set up meetings to discuss what's possible. Sometimes some of them are kind of asking you questions, and sometimes they're looking at, what's already existing in the community and maybe asking you or suggesting if you could collaborate. And, sometimes they're not asking, it depends, but sometimes that could be like, okay, what could you do? Or how could you do this? But again, there are so many funders across Canada. So even if the funders in the community are not, like, if you feel like there's nothing available, you could check across Canada or even internationally, what's available, right? So because you can bring resources from everywhere, you're not limited. The sky is huge and big and enough for everyone to fly. So you want to be sure that you're exploring whatever is possible for you to move the work forward, the work that you're doing forward. Developing a comprehensive project plan, your timelines, deliverables, roles, projects, all of this, when you're writing grant applications, you have to submit them. So it makes the job easier for you. So when you get the funding, you just kind of look at it and follow what that says. So it simplifies the most of the work is done when you're writing the application, and then when you get it, you kind of just follow the timeline. Sometimes your timelines could change, but again, you're communicating to the funder to say, we were supposed to do this at this time. We're not able to do it anymore because we got the money late. Can we shift the timelines? Is that okay? And they'll tell you what is possible. All right, build a strong project team. Somebody told me one day, because recently I've been, doing some travels, and I've missed some big events in Sudbury, and I have people who say that, oh, I saw your team members at this event. Oh, they're so amazing. They really shared, and like, oh, that's good. Somebody from the city was telling me about a team member yesterday, and I said, oh, I'm really, really proud of them. So build a strong project team so that when you're not on ground or when you're not available, especially because you may have to spend a lot of your time looking for money. Don't forget, you're doing the job of looking for the money, and you're also doing the job of directing. And don't forget, you're also maybe having your own jobs on the side, right? And sometimes the looking for the money job can be like, uncountable hours that you spend during the day. So you want to try to empower your team to be able to develop, to be able to deliver the programming. All right, so monitor budget and resources, very, very important, because when you are not monitoring and paying attention, you could get in trouble with funders. Karen, am I still able to continue, or do I have to stop?
3 more minutes and then
3 more minutes. Okay, thank you. Practical evaluation tools. So as you're developing the programming and all the work and all that, you want to be sure that you have ways that you're getting that you're evaluating your program. So for some people, a lot of people use surveys, those like feedback forms and all that. However, you could also use logic models. You could use the theory of change document. You could use both qualitative and quantitative data, which can be the storytelling and the feedback that you get and the interviews. And then the quantitative, what are your numbers? What are your numbers? In the nonprofit space, some people, it's easy to manipulate numbers. However, when you have real numbers and you have things to back them up, that is better, because you never can tell what could happen, when you're doing your reporting or when you have to show proof. You cannot forge signatures, right? So again, very, very important. You want to be sure that you're detailed about the work that you're doing. And in terms of evaluation, I also want to talk about, I think I missed those asset mapping and also a needs assessment, very important. So when you're starting, you're kind of checking what's available. What are the available assets that these people have or this group have, and you're also checking what are their needs. And in identifying needs, you could, use surveys to identify needs. You could have focus group, you could have conversations, you could have, unofficial meetings, just engaging people to know where they're at, what is needed, and how you can provide support. And I put an example of a logic model on the page. So this is my daughter's story. She was the reason we started Afro Women and Youth Foundation. However, over the years, she's continued to develop leadership skills, develop advocacy skills. She's doing a lot of quiet work, in the community on campus, and she's really doing great, amazing work. I don't want to say I'm not surprised, because she's gotten, support over the years, and she's just doing so well and also providing support to other people. I like to share her story. However, we also have a lot of other stories that we share at Afro Women and Youth Foundation of how people are continuing to use the tools that we're giving them, as empowerment tools, as advocacy tools, to kind of move forward in different areas where they find themselves. All right, so managing resources effectively, I feel like I've shared over each of the slides I've been sharing about the work at Afro Women, so I'm not going to go into that. However, Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare was a project I did. I worked with them for about 3 years. For 3 years, actually, it was a federal government funded project. And what I learned on this project is the importance of accountability. So I worked with a team of, my project manager and also the admin person, and we would meet every week, actually twice weekly, to kind of review the terms of reference, review our project description and all the documents that we submitted to the funder to be sure that we are on the same page, also that we are progressing rather. And then we also recruited at some point 30 working group members, and 30 working group members that we paid. So how are we sure that these people are doing the work that they're supposed to be doing, right? Because we're going to pay them at the end of the month. And I was checking that, and it was a lot of work. However, it made me understand project management better. It made me understand how we have to report to the federal government better, because we're not just doing internal meetings, we were also meeting with the funder at the federal government. So, and would have questions, would have reports that I needed to create to submit to them, right? Very, very important. It was a good time for me to understand how federal funding, at least some key things, the important things in the federal funding sector. And recently, we kind of did one summer job application, which was successful. Simple application, however, it was also a federal thing. So again, the project helped me to better understand how this funding works. But again, all that we've talked about accountability, project management, ensuring timelines, and team members are effective and able to do the work effectively, all of those are things that needs to be put into consideration. All right, so I don't know, Karen, do we have time for question? You said 3 minutes. I feel like I've used 2, maybe 1 minute for questions.
I don't think that we have time for questions, but if you have any question, please direct them to
Fine. I feel like I kind of
to
went through everything. Yeah.
yeah, that was lot of information, and
Yeah,
it
I
was
think so.
helpful, and I hope that we're going to leverage this information moving forward. Thank you so much, Adebola, and thank you everyone for coming. And do you have anything to say, Adebola?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if anyone's got questions or you'd like to connect, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm actually on all social media platforms. Just search for my name and then feel free to reach out. I will be doing a masterclass very soon, and also starting a mentorship program. If anybody's interested, you want to do nonprofit work and you kind of need support, or social impact work and you need some support, I'm more than happy to share knowledge and support you in that journey. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for your engagement. Emmanuel, thank you. Everyone who shared at the beginning, thank you. And we look forward to another time in the future.
Thank you to all, and thank you, Adebola, again. And Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.